Hi, my name is Jonathan, and I'm taking a look at Woody's Archery Supplies Starburst 2 Lighted Nocks. If you're interested in more information about these nocks and other products, you'll find it in Woody's Archery group on Facebook, and if you're interested in placing an order, you'll find information about that on the Announcements tab in the first full post. These are the 204 size, long awaited, and I got a preview pack to take a look at, and we're going to go through a little of the details here. First up, we're looking at the construction of this thing. It is a clear plastic nock body. On either side of the nock, there's a tab for indexing your arrows. This is awesome for finding out which side of the arrow is your cock feather in the dark without having to look at the thing. As an example here, I'm shooting Zinger fletches on an arrow, and they don't come with one side colored. Really doesn't matter except for your preference how you want them indexed. So when your nock's mounted, that's a great way, without having to look, to figure out if you've got the right side out, away from your riser. The tabs on either side are how it comes. I sanded one of them off, so I've only got one left, which is the way I preferred it. But both are standard. There is a positive metal post that runs through it that is the control for the lights on and off, and that is the major draw to this nock for me. It is definitely much easier to control than, for instance, the popularly available Chinese knockoff nock that you can get on Amazon. That's what one of these is, and the way they work is through a hole in the body of the nock, where to turn the thing off you have to insert a blade or a part of a broadhead or some other sharp object to separate the round plunger from the metal contact in there, and even then it doesn't work reliably. These are a snug fit in my arrows. For instance, for reference, my arrows are a Sirius Archery Apollo 204s, 300 spine, and when I got these, I actually had to sand them down. I couldn't get it to fit, so I just wrapped a piece of sandpaper around here, around the bottom of the nock, and rotated it several times, and then checked the fit again, and I ended up spending maybe 5 minutes on each of these nocks to get them to fit the way I wanted to. But now they are snug the way I would prefer, and when they're in there, they're not going to easily rotate, they're not going to pop out. That's really reassuring thing. You don't want to risk going out in the woods and having one of these things fall out on you from your quiver. Whereas the Chinese nocks I had, well, those suckers, they're hardly in there at all. They're very easy to remove. Let's see if I can stick a fingernail in there. They were very easy to get out, and I had all kinds of problems with them not fitting reliably. I ended up having to shove a piece of paper kind of into the opening of the arrow to hold this steady, and even then it rotated all over the place, and sometimes if I shot, the nock would stay on my string while the arrow left. Really frustrating. These have a regular lithium battery, and when I first got mine they were a little bit loose. I accidentally pulled one out, this one, just messing around with it, gave it a little tug, and this slipped out. I was able to slide it back in and check for function. It still worked the way I expected it to. And what I did basically was compared it to one of the others to get the correct length of insertion. And then I dropped a dab of glue on it to keep it from coming out again. And then ended up dropping a dab of Gorilla Glue on both of the other nocks that I've got as well, just to keep them from popping out. I didn't have any problems with them, but I figured better safe than sorry. The Chinese nocks, you don't get the sliding out. I've noticed they've already got glue in them. These didn't appear to have it. Something else I noticed, if you look at the body of the nock, especially on the Chinese ones, first of all, there is no index tab. That was frustrating. But if you look at how far the nock comes down on these things, that is a lot more plastic holding the thing together than you're getting out of the cheaper ones. You also got a much more substantial thickness of the nock material up here than you do on these. I've actually broken one of these and had that crash on me and lost the knock out of it. In fact, that one. So, compared to the cheap Chinese knocks, they're also a good deal brighter. Let's see if we can simulate this. I'm going to go ahead and light them all up. I've got 2 blues and a green. This, by the way, is the factory Sirius Nock. We'll come back to that in a second. And then to turn this one on, I'm going to find a screwdriver, I think. The way these work function-wise is all the same. When you mount this on your string fits in this gap. When you launch, your string goes shooting forward, like the edge of the screwdriver is. It pushes that post in, which activates the light. Works the same way on the Woody's Nocks as well. You can see there's a little post in there. When you launch your arrow string forward, it pushes the post in, turns on the light, off goes your arrow, including your knock. The problem is, then when you recover your arrow, you presumably want to turn that light off. And with the Woody's section, that's so easy. You grab a hold of the metal post, slide it back, it's off. With the Chinese ones, first of all, you've got to find which side has a hole in it. There is a hole. And then you've got to find something that you can stick inside there. A broadhead worked for me one time, and then quit working on that particular knock. See if I can do this here. Use a pair of scissors. They got a little plunger ball in there, and you separate the plunger ball from the contact body, and that's to turn it off. But sometimes, in this case, I have separated the plunger already, and it's still not off, so you got to really finagle with it a bit. And then it's subject to popping back on. My son and I left these knocks sitting in their garage, upright in a holder. Well, we were coming back to test some more later, and we would come back and find some of the knocks just randomly turned on because the contact somehow wiggled or expanded, or heat or cold or something, but couldn't rely on them at all. These, however, are extremely positive in their function. There's a good bit of travel in that switch, and you know for sure that they're on or off. Weight-wise, I compared these together, and the factory Sirius Nock came in at 8.4 grains. The chintzy, where'd it go? I lost it already. The chintzy Chinese Nock, there we go, was next up at 19.4 grains, probably owing to the lack of body on here. And the Woody's Nock came in at the heaviest. It was 24 grains. I measured all 3 of these Woody's Nocks. They all measured the same at 24 grains. So that's going to have an effect on your FOC if it's a concern to you, but it's not a big effect unless you're comparing it to the factory Nock. But really, once you've decided you want a lighted Nock, you're kind of accepting that trade-off already. Noise-wise, I don't know if this will show up. There is a little rattle. That's true of any of the lighted Nocks that I've found. I don't think it's enough to make any impact on anything. I just one day shook them and was given a listen and noticed. So we're going to take these out and shoot them. We're going to take a few shots with these. We'll compare the Woody's Nocks to the Chinese Nocks at about 20 yards in the dark. But a word on that already, you'll notice my accuracy probably is not the best anyway, but it suffers even more with these Chinese Nocks because they fit loosely in the arrow shaft. And when I first noticed this, look how easily this spins. When I first noticed this, I was frustrated because I was having no problem getting good groups with the factory Nocks. And then I switched over to the Chinese Nocks that I got, and my groups just all went to pot. They were all over the place, unpredictable. I was indexing my Nocks, so I would turn it a little bit, shoot again, turn it and shoot again, and I could not get repeatable performance out of any of them. I expect that's not going to be a problem with these Nocks because I sanded them personally to make sure that they fit snugly in there, and I don't imagine that's going to have nearly this no spin at all problems that I was having with those Chinese ones. Probably will even be better than the factory Nocks. That's snug. That's the way I want them. So, have read that Woody's come up with a different way of mounting these in arrows. I got a batch that came out before that latest evolution, so you might not end up having to sand yours at all, but I did give mine a bit of a treatment, and that's what I get for being on the bleeding edge. Quality-wise, I don't have a Luminock or Glory Nock or any of the other major varieties to test with, but these are knockoffs of that concept, so they might be a little bit different. But for the ones that I have held, Buddy's arrows and then the ones that I got, I had 2 different batches of these, by the way, so a little bit of a wider selection to compare with. Compared to all of those, these are the best quality Nocks by far that I've encountered through 2 different Amazon orders and batches of those from 2 different companies, actually, or well, 2 different sellers. And I'm not, given the way I've played around with these so far, I'm not concerned with how these are going to go at all compared to the difficulties I've had with the other ones. Just for grins here, I'm going to go turn off some lights. And we'll see what these look like just right up here on the desk. And then we'll turn this one back on. Kill some lights here. There you go. I don't know if it shows up on camera or not. The red one, the Chinese one, is dimmer than the others. I'm afraid that's not going to show up on camera at all. Take my word for it. It's dimmer. When we go shoot them and we're looking at them 20 yards away, you'll see what I mean. Up to 10 yards. And now about a yard and a half from the target. First round I had problems with the switches coming on. I loosened up the switches just by wiggling them back and forth a few times and then shot again and had no problems. But here's the really cool part. Boom, that's turned off. Turned off. Turned off. I gotta pull a razor blade or something to stick in here to turn this one off. So to summarize, what I've seen is the construction of these Woody's Archery Supply Starburst 2 lighted Nocks in the 204 size is fantastic. It's head and shoulders above the Nocturnals that I've seen. The positive on-off switch is better than a push-pull system I've seen like on Luminox, or the separating the plunger from the contact setup like in Nocturnals and the cheap Chinese ones I found on Amazon. And for the 204 sized arrows like I'm using from Sirius, I'm going to be thrilled to keep using these this coming season. Thanks.